Hi, modern historians. Let's now take a little bit of time to analyse some sources and talk just a smidge about the Russo-Japanese War of 1904-1905. Really love this cartoon. It's from Box of Books, your modern history textbook, up there in the corner above me, showing you a really good insight into the state of Tsarism at the start of the 20th century. This is a Russian source. Have a look at the caption. We don't know who wrote it, but it's called Nearing the End. We know from the source that Tsar Nicholas II in this image is nursing a child, nursing his child, if you like, his baby, wearing a crown called autocracy, being pursued by a pack of wolves. So let's now annotate the main features. Do the easy ones first. Tsar Nicholas II, we should recognise him by now. When he's nursing this child, this baby called autocracy, maybe it's really saying he's clutching onto his child autocratic authority. I don't think it's really talking about he has a child, a prince or something. I don't think it's that literal. Let's also think about what those wolves represent. It's something that he is afraid of, something that is hounding him. He seems haunted, he's fleeing, he's on the run. I brought in the haunted imagery here because of the crows in the sky, the skeletal figures in the background. We've got that there before. This 3-horse-drawn sleigh is actually quite common in Russian imagery. I'm introducing something new to you here. It's called a troika. The troika comes up a bit in cartoons of the Tsarist era, of the revolutionary era, and into the revolutionary civil war era. It's a symbol of Russia. Some people even go so far as to say the troika, Troy meaning three in Russian, the troika, the 3 horses, are a symbol of the Russian soul. They're a mix of utility and high speed. They're a mix of something that is very beautiful in Russian sleighs or Russian tradition of the bells on sleighs running through the forest. So the troika is a symbol of the Russian soul, of Russia itself. We've got the troika and his fearful horses being chased, if you like, by ravens, crows, which in European mythology are the harbingers of doom or death. I got that phrase from Wikipedia. We know that the crows are a carrion bird, like a vulture, that picks at the bones, the carcasses of dead. So the fact that they're gathering over the Tsar, over Russia, over autocracy is perhaps indicating that Tsarism is about to die. It's nearing the end, as the caption suggests. We also have in the background the images of a grim reaper carrying the scythe with its staff and blade, curved blade over its shoulder here. There's the staff, there's the blade over the shoulder of that skeletal figure of the grim reaper. They're haunting the Tsar, pursuing the Tsar. Death pursues the Tsar along with the wolves. What are the wolves representing? Well, the Tsar is being hounded by countless troubles. We can't put our finger on how many wolves are pursuing him. His enemies, if you like, are showing their teeth now in 1905. 1904, 1905, we have the humiliation of this Russo-Japanese War. In 1905, we also have the Bloody Sunday incident, a massacre that leads to the 1905 revolution, where the Tsar ends autocracy, puts into power his first parliament, a Duma, in which he gives his rivals, his enemies, some power, particularly those rivals of moderate reform, liberals, the bourgeoisie middle classes, the aristocrats, people wanting to share in the power. But also amongst the wolves pursuing him are those who want to kill him, assassinate him, to completely destroy the system that he is in charge of. These are our anarchists, our social revolutionaries, our socialist revolutionaries rather, our Marxists. And those socialist revolutionaries, Marxists, will soon become known as the Bolsheviks of the 1917 revolution, particularly in October, November. So we're now getting an image of Tsarism nearing its end in 1905. when we talk about the Russian involvement in the Russo-Japanese War, it's good to look at other sources as well. Take a moment now, if you like, to pause and play with these images. See what you pick up on. I'm not going to pull this one apart for you, but I will work through a few ideas here. In 1904-05, Russia's Tsar is under a great deal of pressure. Revolutionaries and reformers are calling for an end to autocratic rule, and terrorism, assassination are a very real threat. And this comes up in this New Zealand cartoon called The Fisherman and the Genie. Marxists and other socialist revolutionaries, such as the anarchists, are operating both in Russia and from countries outside Russia where they're safe, beyond the reach of the Tsar's secret police, places such as Switzerland. And that's where Lokov, who we saw in a previous artwork, the pyramid of Russian society, and we've also got Vladimir Ilyich Lenin living. They're both in Switzerland at the turn of the century. While riots and strikes and revolution and terrorism and threat of assassination are stalking the Tsar in his cities and towns, the Russian Empire becomes involved in an imperialist war against a modernizing Japanese empire. Russia, in an act of poor judgment of the Tsar, sees Asian nations as racially inferior and therefore assumes that they will be easily defeated in war. And of course, Japan is not an easy rival at all to the Russians. The Russian Tsar leads the Russian Empire into a stunning defeat by the Japanese, both on land and at sea, and we'll see this in future cartoons, this reference to land and sea. As soon as these defeats occur, we see increasing numbers of mutinies by the Tsar's military. In particular, it's the sailors of his fleet, of his navy, that constantly mutiny against their officers on those ships. And the Tsar's navy actually ends up playing an important part in the Bolshevik Revolution in the years to come. Let's now take a moment for you to play with some sources. Hit pause, use your OneNote, practice analysing these. I won't give you annotations on them. Think about what you do first. Always read the caption. Look at the background statement, the context statements that go with the sources. They often give a clue, and there are definite clues in these ones. Then identify the main features of the imagery. Don't be distracted by features that are almost impossible to work with. Both of these sources have parts of the minor elements of the imagery that perhaps don't matter. Some parts matter more than others. A small feature that doesn't matter here, perhaps, in this is that background, other than to suggest it's in Asia. But there are small features in this one, such as the eyes of this character here, that perhaps are useful for you to use. So figure out what really matters. Be discerning about the features of the imagery. Now consider, what are they useful for? Maybe jot down a couple of judgments. This source is useful in giving an insight into this. X is useful for Y. It's useful to someone. Useful for a certain situation for a historian. Think about whether they're reliable. Are they supported by statements you've read in textbooks? Are they supported by other ideas? Do sources support each other? Are they saying similar things? Jot a few of those ideas down. And now have a go at practicing writing. In this assessment item coming up, you need to write a number of paragraphs. So let's go with this one. Written much the way you would expect in an exam. Use the evidence from the sources provided in this video, including the source provided as your textbook, to explain why the Russo-Japanese War was a significant event in Tsarist Russia during the start of the 20th century. Remember to write in third person, use terms, write in the correct genre, and think about your structures as you write.